Good evening. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark, the April 17th edition. And it's a playoff edition, not for the Vancouver Canucks, but just in general, I guess. And as always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing today, Clay?
Parker, I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Although, as you and I were both lamenting before we started, it sucks that playoff hockey... Well, it's great that there's playoff hockey. It sucks that we're not watching the Canucks in playoff hockey.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of great games going on. There's still games going on. I'm kind of distracted. Wild stars going on behind me.
At least you have a TV in your room. I'm in a
yeah, but
full...
it's behind me. That's not very helpful when I'm supposed to be paying attention here. But yeah, we do have some Canucks stuff to talk about. I figured we'd go over. Obviously, there was two games that didn't matter other than for seeding, which the Canucks won both of. And then we, of course, have playoff predictions, and then also the conferences. All the players, all the GM stuff, everything happened. I'm going to leave a lot of that with you. But let's get started, I guess, with some good old Canucks hockey.
Yes, indeed. Believe it or not, it feels like forever ago, but there were two games since our last show. Do you remember anything about either of the two games?
No. I remember that the Canucks needed to lose them both in a perfect world until that last game went to overtime, and then it didn't matter. So it was nice that they won that, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Vancouver Canucks finish the season with those two wins at 83 points, putting them, those two wins put them above St. Louis, and then above Washington and above Detroit, which would have been nice to be below all of them.
Can you imagine? Who would have thought that in a mean-nothing season, basically the season has meant nothing from a playoff standpoint since December, and two wins against two crappy teams move us from 8th worst to 11th worst. That's crazy.
That's a big jump. It's a big jump, and it hurts a lot, right? I mean, not to mention the lottery odds, of course, but the three picks in general, right? Going from, let's say no movement happens around the Canucks, going from 8th overall to 11th overall, you're going to get, a worse hockey player.
You know what I was thinking? If you move your TV or move your camera, I can tell you if something happens, and you don't have to.
I will, and we will get copyright claimed. So you got a little bit of it here, but that's all I can do.
Well, I got Sean.
Probably should hide that a little bit too.
Okay, just to be safe. Yeah,
but
you're allowed to have a game on in your room.
Yeah, of course. I'm not illegally broadcasting anything.
That's funny. But you're right. The Canucks, they beat the Ducks 3-2. This is the game. Isn't this the game where PD surpasses 100 points? He gets 100 and 101.
Yep. That was one of them.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one was which. I just remember that they won that one in OT.
Yes.
And I didn't really care about it that much, because it was all just looking forward to some real important hockey, which is what we've had today, and it has been a very good day of hockey so far.
Yeah. Are you in any hockey pools, by the way?
Yeah, I'm in one with a few friends that we put together this morning, so it was very last minute.
Do you like your team?
I picked, it was a box pool, so I picked everyone from basically Boston, and Edmonton.
Yeah, that's safe.
Guess who I think is winning the most series? So that was my logic, was just take the teams I think we're going to go the farthest.
That makes sense. No Colorado guys, or
a couple, but stuck with it for the most part.
No, that's smart. Oh, something's exciting happening behind you. No?
Nope.
Okay. Sorry. No, I'm distracted, and I don't even have the TV in my room.
Yeah. Either way, where were we? I mean, the games don't really matter, right? The only Canucks related stuff that we do need to talk about tonight is the press conferences, press availability. Basically, every single player, whether we go from Tanner Pearson and the whole hand thing, or we talk about management and with the talk about buyouts today and Brock Besser and captaincy and stuff like that. We sort of did the whole captaincy thing last week, but definitely some places we can go with that.
Absolutely. So Saturday was the player availability, and then today was the coach and the management. So we should probably go in order, and we start with the players. They trotted 16 players out in front of the media, including, as you mentioned, a couple players we haven't seen in a while. OEL has been away for last month or so, and then Tanner Pearson who we haven't seen since November. And I would dare say, from a player standpoint, that was the most interesting storyline of the day. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think the OEL one got a little overplayed, and I think JPat was on Twitter today being like, the foot injury at the Worlds last year was like a known thing, but I guess people didn't realize how much that theoretically impacted him. Although, I part of me just believes he's just lost a step, right? And I don't think that's a very outrageous thing to say. And then of course, Tanner Pearson having the whole hand thing and basically saying, look, the people who know that there's a problem know there's a problem, and it's sort of surprising they even put him out there to begin with.
Parker, that's a really good point, because as soon as he was out there, people, and they're even not trying to excuse their questions, but they're saying, you got to understand, Tanner, we haven't seen you since November. Tell us about the injury. Then it became, tell us about the treatment. Then it became, when did you know it was going to be bad? Then it became, are you filing a grievance? Like, it kind of just went up and up and up. And to his credit, he tried to answer, but you could tell he's so mad, man. He's so upset with the team. He just said, I just want to be able to play with my kids again. Like, that's when you bring in family reasons and off-ice stuff, it's bad.
Yeah. It was tough to hear, right? I mean, you think about it from, a personnel perspective, right? And we can look at the contract, and he's got 1 year left and something like that. You think of, well, is that it then, right? Is he going to get, he's got a paycheck through the rest of this year, and then is he just done? Like, he just has to retire. And sure, he's done well for himself, right? But you got to think about a guy who, he'll be 31 at the end of this contract. He'd probably be able to cash in a couple more years at a pretty reasonable amount of money for probably some other team. But it's the personal side of it definitely sucks to hear.
Treatment notwithstanding, Parker, if let's say Tanner Pearson is completely healthy and he's on this team, so we're not talking about trading him or moving him. Where do you put him now, given who we have now? Does he drop to a third line winger for you now?
I think so, and I think that's how I always saw him, to be completely honest. He's like a good third line winger. But I don't think a team with him as your second line winger is probably super competitive.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. And Kuzmenko's ahead of him. I guess Mikheyev's ahead of him. Beauvillier will be ahead of him. So there's Garland's, Besser. So we've already named 5 wingers before we even get to him. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. By the way, people, I could tell maybe the worst thing for our show is to be going on during an overtime game.
We had the idea of, perfect, all the games are going to have ended right around when we start. Yeah. And turns out that overtime is a thing. Now, it wasn't a thing in the early games.
Yeah, 2 of them.
But in these ones it was. And I didn't even know it was 2 of them until right before we got on here. Because I didn't realize the Kopitar had tied it with like 13 seconds to go. So, yes. Definitely eating into our viewership a little bit. But that's okay. I'm still watching the game.
Yeah, and I'm watching you watch the game. It's perfect.
And on this screen, I now have the Oilers Kings about to go. So I'm set.
How do you do that?
I just using the Sportsnet website. It's terrible.
Okay. Smart.
It's atrocious website.
So Tanner Pearson, he talks, and we all feel for him. OEL said, he was slow coming out of the gates because of his broken foot, which, yes, many people knew about. Anything else stand out to you? PD talked about the fact that he didn't. One thing, Parker, he didn't give Vancouver like the most glowing endorsement ever, but he didn't also say, I can't wait to leave. He said, we haven't really talked about it, and maybe we'll start talking about this summer. He was less committal to his contract extension, although nothing bad, than, say, Patrick Allvin showed today a little more enthusiasm about it.
Right. Yeah, there was that part of it. And then, of course, there was, to sort of stick on that, on the Pettersson contract side, you had his agent going on with Rick Dollywalt today talking about, some comparables. And I guess Rick brought up, like, do you see Barzal as a comparable? And he's like, yeah, one of them. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, if the Canucks got Elias Pettersson on Barzal's contract, that is just robbery, right? Like, that's ridiculous. To be anything under 11, I think would be insane. But I mean, the Canucks would be stoked to have Elias Pettersson around for as long as possible. There's also Pettersson going to the Worlds, seemingly, or at least wanting to.
Oh, really?
Yep, that was. I think that was said today. They have some insurance stuff to work out apparently. But what would you think about Pettersson? I think basically being the first Swedish NHLer to commit to at least wanting to go.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You can get hurt anywhere. You can get hurt in the NHL. You can get hurt in the Worlds. You can get hurt walking down on your balcony. So I don't worry
Washing
about
your car.
Yeah, many things. I'm just going through all the things in my head how I've gotten hurt. So you could. I think it's good from a standpoint if he's feeling really good about his game, and I've actually heard Pettersson talk, Parker, about how I think it was actually in the Sportsnet video from spring break, from the All-Star break, where he actually talked about a gold medal. I believe he said a gold medal to him means more than a Stanley Cup. Now, maybe I'm remembering out of context, but if he's even thinking like that, then even like a World Championships, I could see where it means a lot to him, where to represent his country. So I don't have any problems with it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you are more likely to get hurt doing something like that, especially you now have the Oliver Ekman-Larsson thing sort of looming, right? Where he says, "Oh, I still have my foot injury from last year," and if by some the opposite of miracle, my words are not working today. But if somehow Elias Pettersson's not 100% ready to go at the start of the season, and let's say into the season, it's already a write-off for the Canucks.
Yes.
Right. That's
by the way,
fear.
Parker, look to your left. I believe they are reviewing an overtime winner, but no, in the Edmonton game.
So my stream will be a little bit behind. So
sorry.
I'll give you my live reaction here as it happens, I'm sure. But yeah, you can.
Now in the chat, they're saying they scored. Is the chat? You guys are probably ahead of me and Parker.
High stick, absolutely high stick. Yeah,
you're
right off the bat, like live shot. That's above the bar for sure. Point shot was going straight up, tip straight down.
Okay, Coach Rob saying no goal. High stick.
Absolutely high stick. Now, I obviously that's just from the broadcast angle, but
which is good. And
they actually called it high stick on the ice. It looks like. So we'll see what they review it as.
Everyone is indeed saying no goal. Very good. Very good.
Let's see. Oh yeah, way high. It's above Doughty's head. Moving on.
Sorry, man.
I get
I get distracted. I don't even have the games on. You know why? I heard Sean yell from my living room. That's why.
Yeah, no, it was well above everybody's head. Like the guy's holding his stick straight up, and that's where it hits.
So, but we were talking about Petey in the Worlds. I did. Did JP Barry say anything else exciting of note?
I don't think so. I think that was the only thing that I saw. And again, I didn't listen to it. I read all the tweets from it. So that's sort of all I had to go off of. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. You want to do some play-by-play? No. Is that...
If I wasn't behind, I'd think about it.
That's true.
I guess I could change this channel behind me, but then I'm looking the wrong way. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of it on the Pettersson front. Was there any other players that you had an interest in?
When it comes to the player standpoint, the first group I remember was PD. Oh yeah, Brock. The fact that Brock flat out said he doesn't want to be traded. He likes the way he played for the final third of the season. Patrick Allvin didn't share the same excitement for Brock. He did acknowledge that Brock's been playing better, but he also didn't. He said that Brock's got to have a big summer. Apparently, every player has to have a big summer, Parker. And you and I should have a big summer. But yeah, Brock did say that he did not want to be traded, and he really loves his teammates. Is the term he used.
Yeah, and you got to think. I mean, it feels like the Brock Besser wheels have been turning since before we started doing this show over 2 years ago now. Basically 2 years ago to the day or to the week. Why did we start doing this in April that the Canucks were in the playoffs? What a bad idea on my part.
What were we doing? Yeah.
But yeah, either way, yeah. For Besser, like again, I like the guy a lot. He puts up decent points even when he is basically invisible, and you got to think with everything that's gone on, he gets one more shot. Right? Like I don't think they're going to trade him this offseason. I don't think they need to either. Sure, the cap hits a little high, but I don't think that's where you're going to be. Like that's not the difference between you making the playoffs and not, right?
Right.
Any move you are thinking about making, he's probably at a pretty low value right now. It can probably wait until the trade deadline at the very least. So
Yeah.
I don't really want to see him traded unless the haul is surprising in return. But I think at his current value, I think it would be silly to pull that trigger now.
And Bruce makes a good point. It's not like Brock is going to come out and say, yeah, I do want to be traded. So I get that, but it was still, no, that's a good point, Bruce. That's fair.
Right, but I don't think he'd come out and say like, no, I really want to stay here. Right?
That's true.
I think it would be more of a like look, you know,
I know it's a business.
I'm not
Yeah.
looking to be moved, but I know
Right.
it's you know, XYZ,
Yeah.
and they've got ways around that stuff.
Sure. I want to touch on the two other wingers actually that Brock is often lumped into as guys that may move. So Connor Garland, what was interesting about him, he scored his hat trick, right? His first career hat trick against the team that he used to play against. So that was the last goal of the Canucks season, was that nice goal in overtime. But they asked him, because he's been the one who's been first line all the way down to fourth line under Rick Tocchet. But you can tell that Garland loves Tocchet. Tocchet was his main coach in Arizona when Garland thrived, and he said he was fine with the way he was utilized, and he didn't have any complaints. So it kind of led me to believe that, Parker, that I think of those three guys, the third being Beauvillier, that maybe Garland is the one who stays the most of the three. I don't know.
Yeah, and it really gives that, like, you think about it and you're like, well, now really would be the worst time also to probably move on from Connor Garland, right? You think about it, they bought pretty high on him, right? Off of his 39 points in 49 games in Arizona in that in the bubble year. And then he comes out and is kind of, you know, not as good here. And then he gets the coach back that he had, you know, early in Arizona, right? And now he's performing a little bit better, right? He's playing a little better, a little bit more confidence, puts a hat trick up in his last game. Keep in mind, he only had 14 goals all year before that game, right? Like, not very good. But maybe that's enough to spur him into doing something more, and it at the least increasing his trade value come the trade deadline if the team's out of it, which we know they might be.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't hate the thought of keeping him around as well. Because again, I don't think you have to get rid of him before the season starts. You probably want to get rid of somebody, right? But I think a Beauvillier falls a little bit easier into that camp just because he's had less time with the team, right? He's sort of lowest seniority, the least fan, you know, like he's less integrated with the fan base at this point.
Great point. As we talk about the third of those three wingers in the winger trifecta, and Beauvillier, he was asked a bit about his play, how much he liked to hear, and then someone flat out asked him to comment on Bo Horvat's comments. And he kind of said what we said last week is Horvat obviously or likely wasn't taking a shot at the fans, just rather caught up in the excitement of a playoff push. So that's kind of weird to ask Bo about Bo, but any story, I guess they're looking for anything.
Yeah, of course. And it's their job to ask leading questions that get clicks, and it's sort of just the way she goes.
So do you think, okay, so to wrap this part up, do you think all three guys, feels like I asked you this last week. Do you think all three guys, or maybe Canucks After Dark, are all three guys, no, it was on Game Over. Are they all Canucks once the season starts? Besser, Garland, and Beauvillier?
Probably.
Think so?
I just think trades are hard. I again, like Beauvillier, I guess, could be a movable piece at the deadline. He is a UFA at the end of next year, so they really don't have any ties. You know, I doubt they're looking for an extension right away. I think they'd probably want to see how the first half of the season goes. And I'm sure Beauvillier is looking at it like, oh, I'd love an extension after putting up, you know, my basically career high numbers over the past, you know, the last 30 games of the season, right? 20 points in 33 games. Yeah, I'm a 55-point player. Let's lock in a contract around that number, right?
Yes.
And that also might, you know, give them an opportunity to move him, but also, again, probably not a lot of value, right? Wingers don't have a lot of value, expiring contract, but maybe the opportunity to do something there.
And then Jaskrin really wants us to talk about Quinn Hughes because he's tweeted about it, left a comment twice, that Hughes was the only one wearing a suit. Looks like captain material to him. That's what Jaskrin says.
Yeah. Again, I said it last week. I'm all in on Captain Quinn Hughes. No problems here.
I can be convinced. Okay, so that was the players on Saturday. Then we go to Rick Tocchet and Patrick Allvin. So Parker, there are some people kind of wondering why wasn't president of hockey operations Jim Rutherford there. We know that Jim Rutherford said earlier this spring, I got to stop talking. That's really Patrick Allvin's job. So, so it was only two of them, not all three of them.
Yeah, and that's what my immediate thought was too. When people were like, "Oh, where's Rutherford?" It's like, well, he said he doesn't want to do this, right? and can you blame him? I wouldn't want to either. Yeah, it's so he stays on the sidelines, and that's fine. I think Allvin is getting better, media wise.
Yes.
I think he was pretty well spoken, pretty assertive, and fairly confident in what he was saying, which I think is nice.
Cracking a couple jokes as well, like smiling.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
That Swedish humor that they all have, right?
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
But yeah, it's I think he did fine.
Yeah. Patrick Allvin did feel so. A couple of things that were funny, Parker. One of them was they're talking about Ethan Bear, and he giggled and he said something like, "Well, I don't even know if he deserves a raise." But a couple people pointed out on Twitter, you wouldn't joke about that if you're in a contentious negotiation.
Yeah, that would be pretty rough if it comes out tomorrow that they've cut him, right? Or they've traded his rights or something. Like yeah, that would be a bit uncomfortable. Like, oh no, he was serious. Yeah, I mean, Ethan Bear's been great, of course, but yeah.
Joked around about JT Miller saying, well, Gretzky got traded in his career as well. So I'm not sure if he's comparing Miller to Gretzky.
Yeah, that's some high praise. I mean, we did it with Pedersen, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day. And why not have two Gretzkys on your team, really?
Two Gretzkys.
Yeah. No, I think it's the right thing to say, right? People are going to blow up like, oh, yes, we're listening to calls on JT Miller, right? And it's like, well, of course, you got to listen to calls on everybody because someone might be Jim Benning on the other side of the phone, right? And offer you too much for an aging player. Yeah. Very possible. I mean, we heard the reports that Pittsburgh was very on them, although now that whole Pittsburgh regime is out, which might hurt those chances. I mean, you saw them trade for Mikael Granlund for their playoff push, which they didn't make, and now they're stuck with that contract for a couple of years. But yeah, I doubt anything happens on the JT Miller side, although I am getting a little bit more okay with JT Miller lately.
Yes. And a couple other things that they talked about. They both Rick Tocchet and Patrick Allvin identify third line center as a priority, something to fill in, whether it's from within or getting someone somehow with some cap space. But then it was really interesting, Parker. Patrick Allvin, he didn't talk at all about going out and getting defensemen. He said he mentioned Jet Wu having a resurgent season. He talked about how Hirose and McCord played well. Talked about how OEL is going to be more comfortable in a supportive role, supporting Hughes and Hronek. He doesn't have to be the number one guy. And he also talked about Breezeball, Juleson, Burroughs. Not all of them are going to be back. Wolanin, but they had decent seasons. So to me, it sounds like they're going to prioritize third line center over upgrading their blue line.
Yeah, and it's a cheaper problem to fix, right? It's probably a $1.5-2 million problem to fix instead of a $7 million fix.
Yeah.
The Canucks just have so much money tied up defensively, and a third line center is probably going to be a defensive player to help your defense anyways.
Win some draws, right?
Yeah, not to say this defense doesn't need help, because they do. However, if McWard and Hirose, and again, this should not be the expectation, but right. if they're like number 5 and 6 D-men, like suddenly the Canucks are looking okay, right? Defensively, as in they've got a 1, a 5, and a 6, and maybe a 4 in Ethan Bear, right? So they just have 2 spots left to fill.
Hronek should be one of them.
Hronek would be one of them. Right, I forgot about Hronek.
Yeah. So we have a 2.
So you have a 1 and a 2, and a 4 and a 5 and a 6. That's pretty good. You're just missing one guy, right? And a 3D is probably $4.5 million, and a 3C is $1.5 million, $2 million, 2.5 maybe. Yeah. I think it's okay. I think they're probably looking at the balance sheet and thinking, well, we already have so much money on the defense, right? Like we can't afford to pour more in. It's kind of sunken cost, but I don't hate that idea. I'm sure they're still looking at it. but we'll see what happens.
And then the other thing that Patrick Allvin said of note was that no buyouts. He doesn't anticipate buyouts because, as we've talked about here, it might look good for the first 1 or 2 years, but then in year 3 or 4, where it's the cap hit spikes up again, you don't want that happening to you when you're trying to be competitive. So he actually poo-pooed on the idea.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Unless the Canucks are trying to build a contending roster in the next year, right? Buying out a guy like Ekman Larsson doesn't make sense. Because that's when you get most of the cap savings, or in the first couple of years. And then you remember it goes for double the length of the cap hit. So 4 years left on the contract. Well, now it's an 8-year hit on your buyout, which is just not good, right? And if you can wait a year, well, then the savings get pushed to maybe you're more competitive. And then you only have half the time. It's 1 year fewer at the tail end as well that you're actually getting hit by it. Buyouts are really a worst case, scenario.
Great point. And 2 really quick hits. Yes, Dermott is alive. Patrick Allvin talked about him and said it's unfortunate he only played that handful of games, and he was non-committal about his future as an RFA. And yes, Curtis Lazar was supposed to be a center fourth-line winger, but I simply don't think he plays with the speed and tenacity that Rick Tocchet might want. I don't know if you want to add anything about Lazar.
Yeah, Lazar just wasn't really a fit. I loved the deal when they made it, like $1 million for 3 years. That's a very tidy piece of business, as we said, because it was no risk, right? It's something you could bury in the minors or you could get out of really easily. And he wasn't really a fit here, and they had guys moving up to take those spots, guys like Sheldon Dries coming in and sort of just being a bit of a better fit. And they said, well, instead of being strapped to this for 2 more years and taking up a contract spot, we can just flip him and get a late pick and just be off of it, right? It was a no-risk move that, I think the Canucks gained an asset, right? What did they get for him? They got a 4th or a 6th? What did they...
Good question.
They got a 4th in 2024. Okay. So again, they spent $1 million on this guy. They got a 4th for him. And now he's in the playoffs for the New Jersey Devils.
Good. He's not playing yet, though. He's still hurt, right? Oh, actually, I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know. No idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't follow the Devils very closely.
Me neither.
They do not have him in the daily face-off lineup, though. That is for sure.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we're hitting halfway already. Do you want to do some playoff predictions then? Is that where you wanted to go with the second half?
That was an idea. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover.
No, the players talked, the coach and the GM talked. I don't know what's then. I guess the next thing isn't, the draft lottery. We kind of talked about the Canucks moved from 6.5% down to 3%. They lost 3.5% in the span of 2 wins.
Yeah. Not ideal, really. It looks like LA is on the power play here, about to get kicked off. So with 11 minutes to go in OT1. So I'll keep my eye on that for us. And maybe while this game has not ended yet, maybe this is the series we want to start with on our playoff predictions. We usually do some sort of contest for this, right? Remember we did that last year and because we had the games and it went down to sweeps and stuff like that. So let me pull up NHL playoff bracket. I'm sure you already have made your picks.
I've done a couple. Yes.
So we know where we're going.
And I think I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, it looks like the Kings have won game 1.
Awesome.
Against the Oilers. I'll be able to get a delayed replay here on this side. But yeah, that's Oilers down 1 in the series, which is surprising. I'll start by saying I had the Oilers in 6 in this series, and LA has basically stolen home ice. That is that's going to be big.
Do you want me to track this, or will you?
I can track it. Let me start writing stuff down. Edmonton, LA 6, and you were the same.
Yep.
All right. So that's
stay in the Pacific.
Sure.
Yep. Vegas and Winnipeg. One? I'll go first. I have Vegas in 7. I think this is going 7.
Let me look at what I wrote. I have Vegas in 5.
Nice. Some separation there.
However, I would be stoked if Winnipeg won that series. I'm not a Vegas fan. So if Winnipeg could find a way to pull that out, that would be fantastic.
Dallas and Mini.
So this game's still going on, going into OT2, I believe. Unless it did end when I was on the wrong channel here. I'm trying to get back to it. Dallas, Minnesota. I went with the Dallas Stars, but that one is the one I'm taking a 7 in the West.
Okay, I have Stars in 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got that. Next on our list.
Colorado, Seattle.
That's a tough one for Seattle, I think.
Do you have them winning a game? I have Avs in 5.
I also have Avs in 5. Oh. So we're pretty similar so far, although not exactly.
And then we'll have to look it up. Didn't we do 2 and 1 or something? Like it wasn't just 1 and like points.
I think we did 3 for a series and an extra for the games, or was it 2 for the series, 1 for the games, something like that?
But we're not doing our whole bracket, right? We're gonna go round by round.
Just round 1.
Okay.
Just round 1 here. So next would be Boston, Florida.
Yep. Boston won it today quite handily.
And I'm not including that. I've wrote this down before.
Me too. Me too.
So I have Boston in 6.
Ooh, I have Boston in 5.
Okay.
God, you're giving Florida 2 games, eh?
I don't know. No, actually, here's what I wrote down. I literally wrote down Boston, Florida, the best regular season of all time. No further comment. Bruins in 5.
Okay.
However, they're sick, so Bruins in 6.
Oh wow.
Because they.
What do you mean? What do you mean you wrote comments? Where do you write? Who are you writing comments to?
I made a video earlier today.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta go watch it.
That's okay.
I suck. I haven't been online though, so I'll go watch
that's
it.
That's fine.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, no, that was what I'm taking all those same predictions here.
Oh, good.
Because I got to be consistent. Obviously, I want Florida to win that because it would be sweet. But Boston's too good. They're just too good.
Yes.
Tampa Bay, Toronto.
Yeah, I don't hate the Leafs. They're 18 points better in the regular season. Blah 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 blah. I have Toronto in 7.
I have the same. And yeah, I literally like the curse thing doesn't make sense, right? Like it doesn't. I'm sure it's in the players' heads, right? Coming into this, like, we can't screw this up again. Because I know for my beer league hockey team, we choke in the playoffs all the time too. So we come to a playoff game and we play the first 10 minutes terribly because we're thinking like, guys, we can't play bad. And of course, you're thinking like you're going to play bad. I do have Toronto in 7 though. Toronto is just a much better hockey team. I think at this point, Tampa Bay's regressed a fair bit. However, don't want to count out a guy like Andrei Vasilevsky. I think he can definitely steal a series, or at least steal a couple of games. I just think Toronto is just so strong. And I think it would be fun I think it would be really fun if they won this series and had to face Boston, because that would be a phenomenal series.
And Tampa has played so much hockey over the past 4 seasons.
Yes, they sure have.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, good. Carolina Islanders.
This is probably the series I like looking at all the teams. These are the 2 teams I probably care the least about, just in general. Like the Islanders are such a non-exciting team for me. And the Hurricanes are kind of fun and exciting, but it's Carolina. I never really cared about them growing up. So, but then you look at this sort of matchup and I'm thinking, Carolina's fast and they've got some really good players. The Islanders sort of snuck in because, Pittsburgh and Buffalo were bad. And they kind of have that, that style that might do well in the playoffs. I want this to go to 7, so I'm saying it goes to 7, but I'm going to say Carolina takes it.
I also have 7, but I think Carolina is going to get goalied. So I have the Islanders in 7.
And that's so possible, right?
Yeah.
Coming into a series like this, like that would not be unreasonable at all.
Yeah. And then finally, Rangers and Devils.
Yeah, this one looks fun.
Yes.
The Rangers, again, sort of that more playoff-y team. Just, I think, because they're slower. So to me, that's like, they got a more bruiser style. When in reality, like, the Devils are just quick. Jack Hughes is outstanding. And I want to root for Jack Hughes because we've got one of the Hughes brothers. So I am going Jack Hughes in 7.
I knew the East would give us some divergence. I have Rangers in 6. You're right. They're slow. They're Kreider. They're Tarasenko. They're Patrick Kane, who used to be fast. But I just like their veteran presence, and I do like the Rangers goaltending a bit better. But we'll see.
Yep.
But I do like the fact that today's hockey is pretty exciting too, overtime games. But the first 2 games tomorrow, come on, Toronto, Tampa, and New York, New Jersey, so good.
Yeah,
So
it's appointment viewing. Like I will be glued to my TV all afternoon, and that's what's great about the first round, right? I mean, you look at this. Like we had hockey start just after 4:00 today, and it's still going right now. We got double OT, and there's been no breaks really because they staggered the start times by 30 minutes. Like, thank you NHL for doing that. And I let's go to 3 OT. Why not? Right? I'll stay up. Like it's no, and like just looking at my numbers, like the East is so much more intriguing to me.
Yeah.
The West, these series all feel like they have a pretty decent gap, except for this one, this Dallas-Minnesota one. I think they're pretty even, but like, I just think Edmonton is quite a bit better than LA. They just look so dangerous. I mean, they won 9 games coming into the playoffs. They lost this one, right?
Yeah.
But it's one game, and it went to OT, and it was a pretty even game.
Yes.
And they did score in overtime. It was just 8 feet in the air when they knocked it down. Right. And then Vegas is, in my mind, just quite a bit better than Winnipeg. Colorado's quite a bit better than Seattle. Mm-hmm. They're all like, there's clearer favorites on the West to me than there is on the East, where it's, Boston and Florida. I think there's a clear favorite there. Toronto and Tampa Bay. I think Toronto should be a clear favorite, but there's the whole Toronto thing.
Yeah.
And that could go either way. And then we picked separately on the Islanders and Rangers series. Because again, they're really close, and I think that's awesome. Yep. I want literally all I am cheering for in the playoffs, especially round 1. My team's not in it. Overtimes, game 7s. That's all I want.
Yes. And speaking of overtime, isn't Dallas just the quintessential overtime team? Like if you look at all 16 teams, I don't care who Dallas's opponent is. If you had to pick one team, they say who's going to go into overtime a few times in the first round? It's Dallas.
Yeah, they always seem to be involved. And I think part of that's our recollection of that 4 OT.
Yes.
Back in the day, of course. But yeah, I mean, you had last year with that game 7, right, where Jake Ottinger stood on his head and saved like 60-something shots. I don't remember what it was, but he had like one of the best goaltending performances ever. And he has this series, this Minnesota Dallas series is going to be just a goaltending war, right? You have Gustafsson, who was like a 929 or something this season. I don't remember the exact number. It's just something crazy. So yeah, there's just a lot of good, exciting matchups.
It's interesting. The Minnesota Wild, they basically went back and forth between Gustafsson and Fleury. They rotated them heading into the end of the season. I wonder what they're going to do for the playoffs. You don't rotate in the playoffs, do you? No, not if Gustafsson wins, unless he's super tired.
Yeah, I mean, if he faces 65 shots tonight and loses, and you're like, okay, well, maybe you need a rest. However, if he faces 65 shots and wins, or are you going to take him out? He played 39 games this year. He put up a 931.
Yeah.
A 2.1 goals against average. Like, that's your starter. That's your goalie. I don't care that he doesn't have the playoff experience. He's only 24 years old. Like, put him in, right? Fleury's not the goalie he was. He's still good. But give this guy some games.
Yes. Yep. I agree. He's a lot of good young goaltenders. I still think Demko's part of it. Like I've heard some people talk on the radio how maybe because with Demko's season, Parker, he's kind of dropped out of whatever. But they put him in that second tier, like 6 to 10 behind the Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky, maybe Ottinger. You put in there. I'm missing one. I don't know if Saros is in there anymore, but Hellebuyck. And then Demko, I still think he's in the top 7 or top 8 of the.
Yeah, I think he's probably around the 10 mark. I think he needs a resurgence, right? And he showed a bit of that late in the year. But the beginning of the year just was very negative, and I think he needs to really reprove himself going into next year. And that's going to be a huge thing for the Canucks, right? If we want to see the Canucks playing games like this, you're going to need Demko playing 55 games, and you're going to need him putting up a 915, right? And especially look at this 931 in a year where league average save percentage dropped to like 900. Like that's absurd, right? Like
Great
league average
points.
was like, what was it, like 904 this year?
Yep.
Compared to
Yep.
like 910 normally.
Yeah.
And he's out here putting up a 931. That's insane.
That's a really, really, really good point. Yeah. And he, by the way, just looping back to him, he didn't say much. He, they asked him a question, what's it like? You know, they said your teammates, they love it when you're in the net. They expect to win. What's the pressure like of having all your teammates counting you? He goes, it's nothing. I'm used compared to the media pressure or the fan pressure playing here in Vancouver. So Demko's got a good head on him. And I do agree with like that dude that says Demko just had a bad year. He'll be back. I think we agree with you. We agree with you for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I absolutely. And I'm glad he showed glimpses of that at the end of the season. I'm glad he didn't come back. Okay, well, it might have been good if he came back and was bad for draft position's sake, but he came back and he won the team games, and that is, you know, if that can carry over into next year, then maybe it's all worth it. We know they weren't winning the lottery anyways, so yeah, you know, hopefully Demko can be a star again.
Yes. I agree. Have they started playing yet?
Oh, I think I got lost for a second there. We good?
Oh, yeah, we're good. I still see you and hear you.
Okay, you just cut out for me. All right, so that's our playoff predictions. Anything else on that side, or any other topics you want to cover here?
Without giving away you do whatever you want. So are you venture to guess? It sounds like, are you going Edmonton, Boston if you had to choose, if you had to choose today, or are you going Colorado, Boston?
If I have to choose after the Edmonton lost to LA, I'm a little like, oh, they lost, but it's one game, right?
Yeah,
My pick was Edmonton, Boston, and I took Boston in the final. And I don't know if that hurt. I don't know if that's growth and maturity, or if I'm lying to myself and telling myself I don't hurt anymore. Who knows?
You know, it's funny. We had time on my stream last night to do predictions from the community, and we did every series. I did a quick 1 minute poll on YouTube and just let them choose between the two, and it became Boston over Edmonton by 56%. So it was close, but it was a Boston Edmonton final. Yeah.
And again, like a month and a half ago, Edmonton wasn't the favorite coming out of the West, right? You know, it was probably a Colorado or a Vegas. But Edmonton's just been so good lately, and you have McDavid hitting 100. Like, they've just been all over the news. They got 3 guys get 200 points, and the stats show, right? Playoff hockey we think of as like, oh, nothing gets called. There's no penalties. It's all, you know, hooking and holding and hitting and stuff like that. In the first 3 or 4 games of a series, penalties usually go up, and then in the last few games of a series, penalties go down, right?
Okay.
That bodes really well early in a series for Edmonton. I mean, you saw today, Connor McDavid drew 2 penalties in 31 seconds, right? And he just drew a 5-on-3 by himself. And when you have a power play that clicks above 30%, right, that's going to be huge. And you need to use that to get to like a 3-1 series lead.
Yeah.
But I think if LA sticks in it early, and I think if any team against Edmonton, like, they need to survive with their penalty kill for the first like 4 games. And if they can be at 2-2 at 4 games, I think then another team might step up as the favorite.
It's interesting too. You say McDavid's so good at drawing penalties. You know who number 2 in the NHL is behind McDavid?
Was it Pettersson?
It was. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool. It's a wonderful, wonderful affirmation for PD's game for sure.
Yeah, and McDavid, it's obvious, right? It's because he just skates past people. And what are you going to do? Like, okay, I got to take him down. Otherwise, he scores, right? And it's like, oh, you took a penalty against McDavid? Yeah, it's probably worth it.
Yep.
Right? And it's the same with Pettersson, right? He'll just make his way around you. And, it helps the team a lot. And it, helps them win games.
I agree.
All right.
What else you want?
I don't know. Any questions, comments, anything like that? I'm still got this Minnesota Dallas game going on in the back, so I can't go to bed yet until this ends. So who knows how late this is going to be?
Could be a late one for you.
Very well could be.
You want to answer this question from Peter? It's pretty
sure. It's kind of just a random shot at Riley Stillman, seemingly. Ask if I ever play defense with my back turned like Riley Stillman. Sometimes it happens. You try to avoid it. But no, I try not to do that if possible.
You left shot D or right shot D?
Right.
Oh, awesome.
So I
Very-
have value.
Yeah, very important. Canucks could use you. Oh, I can hear Sean yelling in the.
Oh. Huge save by Ottinger on a 3-on-2.
Oh,
Still alive. I wonder what the shots are in this game because Ottinger is probably
It's,
getting a workout.
yeah, it's 47-45
Okay.
for Dallas.
They took him off. They had him on the score bug, and then the
it's-
first OT, and they took him off.
Yeah, 47-45 Dallas.
Crazy. Yeah, heck of a game.
Wow.
Wish that was us.
I know. When I was watching Boston, Florida, then some of Edmonton, LA, and then it's one thing to say, oh, the Canucks would get killed, but no, the Canucks were great in the bubble. That was such fun hockey, man. In the bubble, last time the Canucks were in the playoffs. No fans, of course, but
I know. You imagine the difference that makes, though, right? Like if, being at a game, with the 18,000 people, just how loud it'll be when that happens again. Hopefully they win some of those too. Yeah, that'll be unreal.
Justin, thank you for the donation. $5.50. Play La Bamba. Is that what they play?
Capital LA. That's what the Oilers do. So I think he's taking a little shot with the LA there.
What, the Oilers play La Bamba?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I get it. In the LA. What a game. One loss closer to McDavid trade request out. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Justin.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It was a great hockey game, and I'm just sort of dialed in on this one now. I don't know if there's any other topics that we have because I think we're kind of floundering here.
I can tell you want to go watch. Let's do 3 minutes so we get to 50. Let's do 3 minutes
Sounds
of your best questions, and
Yes.
we will answer them well.
Yeah, get some questions. Let's see. I'm going to scroll up a little bit and see
Sure.
what we have.
You scroll up, I'll scroll down.
Rome's kind of debating us on the Kings here, saying that the Kings had a 26-12-4 record in the last 42 games. The Oilers were 29-6-7. Not too far off. I mean, it's not too far off. It is 9 points of difference, right? 6 regulation losses versus 12. I think that's fairly substantial, and I think the skill ceiling is just huge, right? You're talking about Anze Kopitar versus Connor McDavid. Stuart Skinner was very, very good this year for the Oilers as well. And that power play is just so dangerous, especially if we're talking about, getting to a point where, let's say there's 3 penalties aside per game and, maybe it's not super high scoring. I mean, we look at every game that's happened tonight, that was the highest scoring one at 4-3. But if you can get a power play goal or 2 in a game, you're probably going to win that game, right? It's going to be a pretty good edge on that side. And I think just because I don't think it's anything against the Kings, I think it's just the Oilers have looked so dangerous in the last few weeks.
Yeah, that is totally fair. The Oilers are coming in so hot. Here's one. Who's your Conn Smythe winner? I will take the easy Pasternak vote.
I'm going to go for Ullmark.
Nice.
I think you could see Ullmark putting up some crazy numbers throughout the playoffs here. Pasternak is, I think, a good bet though as well.
Oh man, I got to tell you the very, very quick Ullmark story. So I did my hockey pool with my church guys yesterday. My season ticket partner Mike was upstairs with his 7-year-old kid Lyndon. I was downstairs. That's the goal. That's the game that Ullmark scored, right? Like the historic goal against the Canucks. I got to see a goalie go live. Mike left after the first period because his son was acting up, and Mike's a good dad, so he took his son home. But then when he realized that he missed a goalie goal, I'm not sure if he's going to bring his son to a game for the next few years.
Yeah, that's a once in a lifetime thing. That's very funny.
Good parenting.
Yeah, there's always you can watch it afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So does that mean Ullmark, by extension, is he your Vezina winner?
I think so.
His stats are crazy. His stats are absolutely crazy.
I mean, what 938? That's 938. It's absurd. 49 games, 189 goals against average. Yeah, you're gonna not give it to that guy. I think something crazy just happened, but I missed it. I'm gonna jump back here. What happened?
Yeah, I can hear Sean yelling too.
Sailed it. Wide open net. Stars rebound, and he sailed it.
I may have to move my streaming setup to my family room for the next one.
Oh, the puck just started rolling on Marchment with a wide open net, and he put it 4 feet high. Oh, from the slot. That is a nightmare.
That's something I do in roller hockey, but with less stakes though.
Yeah, slightly, I'm sure.
Parker, let's let you go watch. I can tell you.
I just think, it's this one's been sort of it's been a weird one where we have so much to pay attention to, not much Canucks related stuff. Wild are about to go to the power play though.
That's exciting.
But yeah, I think this game has gone on much later than expected. But I think we should probably save a bit for next week.
But we do appreciate everyone that stuck it through with us tonight, or maybe you're doing the same thing and trying to watch us. We'll watch the game. We do appreciate you, and we commit to, at least while the playoffs are going on, still meeting once a week, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do in the summer.
And correction, Stars are on the power play. It was a trip on the Wild.
All right.
Stars have a chance to win it. But yeah, if you did enjoy this, and I know most of you came after the Oilers-Kings game, but if you did enjoy it and you missed any part, feel free to rewind back to the meeting where we did talk about Canucks-related stuff. You can leave your playoff predictions in the chat. And if you missed any part, of course, you can find it on your favorite podcast platform as well in about 15 minutes after this is over. Clay, any parting words this evening?
Thanks, friends. Enjoy the playoffs. If this game, regardless if this game is still going on or not, I'll be streaming in about half an hour, in about 20 minutes at 11:15 if you still want to do some more hockey talk. Thank you.
They just hit the post. So it's a good one, folks. Anyways, that is it for us. Thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next time.